Hey y'all, what up? Thanks a lot for visiting my channel, Sequential Geek. I'll be that Sequential Geek and check it out. Back issue comics. It'll be a back issue comic book haul. If you are new to my channel, thanks a lot for giving me a chance. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much for swinging by. Thanks for returning. Web of Spider-Man, issue number 95. Web of Spider-Man, issue number 96. The majority of these are going to be dollar books. Nothing was on sale when I got these. I have been trying to just move on with my collecting habits. As a matter of fact, as you can tell, my series of videos, please check them out. Recently in August, I made a video on each long box. My original original Geek long boxes from the first time I was collecting in the 1980s. I did a video on each box. I had 11 long boxes from the 80s originally, and then I started taking out series and stuff I thought were keys or stuff I was just really into, and I put it in these separate short boxes, and that kind of compressed those original 11 from the 80s to 7. So I did a video on each box. Please check those out. Just promoting some past videos, something different than just a regular comic book haul. And it's the hauls that I originally had from the 1980s. So I did a video on each box, and I just recently replaced the boxes. And these newer boxes are longer by like that much. So I'm hoping that I can, I'll be able to fit, some of these in the backs of each one. Because I'm not getting any more boxes. I've accumulated short boxes upon short boxes up to 80. And that's it. Plus my original boxes here. Anything else I'm doing, it's like all these comics that I've been buying recently, past few months, been getting extra comics, I've been giving stuff away, I've been trading stuff. So, yeah, I'm changing gears. I'm not buying any more boxes, and that's that. I've done what I've done. I've got maybe a handful of comics that I, like 5, maybe I think it's like 4 that I've been trying to find for a while to get doubles of. I'm trying to get those doubles, but besides that, I am good. My collecting scene is changing. Spirits of Venom Part 1, Part 3. This is Web of Spider-Man out of December 1992 and January 1993. December 1992. So 1992 is the first appearance earlier that year of the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider right here. That Ghost Rider first issue with Danny Ketch's first appearance is written by Howard Mackie, art by Javier Salteras. So they created the first Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. And this story is about how you've got Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, you got Johnny Blaze appearance, you got Venom and Spider-Man, and it's not the first Demogoblin that's in here. It's the next one, and then this is like Doppelganger. I wasn't reading comics at this time. I stopped around 89 and just collected throughout the 80s. Right, so this story right here, Web of Spider-Man 95, Part 2 is going to be in Spirits of Vengeance number 5, Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance. And then the story continues in Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance number 6. So Ghost Rider, that's the comic book title that got rebooted in 1992. Same year this came out, and it introduced Howard Mackie's character, Danny Ketch. There are people who are turned into these creatures called Deathspawn, and their master is called Deathwatch. So the first appearance of Deathwatch is some issue of Marvel Age. And Marvel Age, stuff like Marvel Age, Marvel Unlimited, those promo material, they reveal concept designs or some panels of an upcoming issue that would feature like a new appearance. Some people are considering those worth paying a premium for. Personally, I don't think promo material is worth paying a premium for, but then again, if I'm a diehard fan of a particular character, maybe I'd consider it, but more as like an afterthought after I get whatever I considered my first key appearances or key issues of actual comic book stories. Promo material, for me personally, I'm not big on. Leave me a comment below if you think that those are something that you would trade comic books for, at the very least. Would you spend money? Would you spend $10? Would you spend $20? Would you spend $20 on a Marvel Age that had the concept design of Spider-Man's suit? The black suit was the first appearance of that. Instead of it being black and white, it was black and red, and that was in Marvel Age. I would pay a premium for that. I would pay, God, would I pay $20 if it was a mint copy? But really, my limit has gone to $30 now is expensive for me. And if you listen to some of the prices that I've mentioned in the past, that's not expensive for me. But I'm digressing. I'm feeling that a lot of these videos, it just seems one-sided. I don't know if I got to do like a live stream or something, because it's like, okay, I'm like, yeah, what do y'all think? Okay, anyway, so this is a comic. What was Spider-Man number 95? Okay, so 95, 96, Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance are the in-between stories. This is Johnny Blaze, the previous Ghost Rider, makes an appearance in the stories. Macendale. You know, the whole history with Hobgoblin is, I mean, it's just like, if you have to retcon something, you know, 10 years after it came out with people that hypnotize other people, and it was just too much, man. You know, that plot for the movie Zoolander, fashion designer brainwashing somebody else to be an assassin. That's the story that they used in the 90s to retcon the history of how the Hobgoblin was originally Ned Leeds, co-worker of Peter Parker at the Daily Bugle. Well, it wasn't popular. I stopped reading by the late 80s because it's just the whole spec bubble was being nursed. Check out those OG Longbox vids I made. I made some references just to my points of view like that, because the 80s was awesome. It was great collecting up until like the last 3 years. And when you have these stories that they're just like, you know, who's the Hobgoblin? Who's the Hobgoblin? And they really dragged it out, and it ends up being this guy nobody knows anything about. And when you try and look back, you know, spend maybe 5 minutes just to go back in some past back issues to find any clues, there are none. So it was very anticlimactic, the revelation of the Hobgoblin. So Roger Stern wasn't crazy about that. So what did Roger Stern do? This is from Wikipedia, just to help me explain it, save time looking up more info. We got ourselves here Macendale, right? So they changed the identity of the Hobgoblin to be this fashion designer, Roderick Kingsley. And he like brainwashed this one third-rate villain, Lefty Donovan, to think he was the Hobgoblin. And then he did some other things that were like manipulating other people into thinking they were the Hobgoblin, or using the Hobgoblin suit. I don't know the details with that, but you would have these people being the Hobgoblin that you would find out later that weren't really the Hobgoblin. It was just like, come on. It was too much. It was just one of the many things that led me to stop spending money on comics by 1989, 90. The reason I point stuff like that out is that it's just like, you know, hey, if you don't like something, spending money on something just because you want it for the title of the character, doesn't make sense for me. That's not the type of a collector I typically am. Although you will hear me say many times, "Hey, I got this because I'm a big fan of this character and this combination of the writer, the artist, whatever." But there are issues that I've passed up that can be considered collectible. But I just didn't like the art, or I didn't like the story, and I was like, "Nah, take that sacrifice." Roger Stern was unhappy with the Hobgoblin's civilian identity revelation was Ned Leeds, and wrote a 3-issue miniseries, Spider-Man, Hobgoblin Lives, in 1997. The retcon by Roger Stern was that Kingsley, that fashion designer, was the original Hobgoblin, while Ned Leeds was brainwashed into serving as a fall guy. Macendale was killed off. That's this version of the Hobgoblin. Macendale was killed off and Kingsley returned. According to Stern, initially he had not known how to resolve the situation of having two hobgoblins, and it was the suggestion of the editorial staff that Kingsley kill Macendale and return to operating as the hobgoblin. Here's the Demogoblin, right? Like a demonized version of the hobgoblin. This is Doppelganger, a Spider-Man from like another dimension. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments on those two general descriptions there. But the original Demogoblin was this dude Macendale. I don't know if you remember how when baby Cable, right, Nathaniel Summers, his mom, it's not Jean Grey, it's Madeline Pryor. And in that X Factor storyline, what was it, around X Factor 32 was the first appearance of this demon, Naasturth, that was from Limbo, Belasco's realm, where Ilyana Rasputin became the Dark Child. A lot of references here. That was around 1983 when Ilyana disappeared in X-Men 160. For a few hours, she came back, aged like 7 years. There's this demon called Naasturth that turned Macendale into the Demon Goblin. Oh, shit. And initially, the Hobgoblin's costume and weaponry, this was during the Inferno crossover that I'm referring to about the initial Demon Goblin. With writer Jerry Conway had Macendale imbued with magical powers by the demon Naasturth, bonding him with another demon. So their bodies combined together, and that was the Demon Goblin. In this story, this new version of the Demogoblin takes the Hobgoblin, who was once the Demogoblin, but was originally the first Jack-o'-lantern. Yeah, you like that? That guy was taken prisoner, and it involves Spider-Man going out of his way trying to help him. I don't know. This is after I collected. I just got like a general description. I'm just trying to help y'all out, in case you're wondering, considering there's so many different characters in here. This guy named Stephen Ford. Yeah, Stephen Ford. That is Deathwatch. And I believe Deathwatch's first appearance is in this comic book somewhere. That's Alex Saviuk doing the artwork. Howard Mackey story. Pretty cool Mark Tuxera cover right here, isn't it? Web of Spider-Man, by the way, ran for a total of 129 issues. Don't you know? That first volume. Here we have Venom. Enemy Within. This is a newsstand from February 1994. Bob McLeod. That's right, Bob McLeod. He did the art on those first few issues of New Mutants. So Bob McLeod did this cover of this 3-issue limited series written by Bruce Jones. Bob McLeod, the pencils and inks. Venom, Enemy Within. As you can see on this glow-in-the-dark cover, we've got little schmutz, don't we? Right there. I don't know if the angle will permit, but let's see if I can get something going on right there. I don't know what that is. But not a lot of, I mean, there's some little dents here, divots on the spine, like 3, but not color breaking. Not. All right, so I'm trying to just show what a great deal I got because I'm such a great guy. Well, it was 15 bucks still though. All right, so the condition's pretty fucking badass. I was hesitant because of the schmutz on the eye, but then I'm just like, I remember passing up a really nice copy of this when I returned to the hobby. It's my 3rd time back in collecting that I'm concluding. And 2016 when I returned, I saw this for like, I don't know, $10 near mint, and I passed as a newsstand. So when I saw this here for 15, let me know what you think. With the schmutz here, with the little marks, glow in the dark, still pretty decent condition. Would y'all pay 15 for this newsstand copy? I would. I love this cover. I've shown this off before. I think I just showed off the same issue, even as a regular direct. This is the Marvel Tsunami line. When you see these symbols right here, I don't know if you can see it. You know, the Tsunami line, because Bill Jamaas, Dan Buckley, Joe Quesada, right? Dan Buckley was running the publishing. Joe Quesada just came in on editor-in-chief, and then fucking Bill Jamaas was president. Those three together between the years of like 1999 to 2005, all right, something happened. Bill Jamaas left by like 2003, all right. He did some absurd stuff during The Office, crossed the line with a few things, some stories I heard about him. I don't think the guy was defined as a terrible, awful person or anything like that. I just heard that his personality was pretty outrageous, and he crossed the line with some people. They thought he was unprofessional, to put it lightly. But, you know, he's got that AWA, him and Axel Alonso, the AWA title publishing company that they started. All right. So my point is, though, is that there was a synergy going on with Bill Jamaas, Dan Buckley publishing, fucking Joe Quesada editor. All these really interesting stories that had to do with characterization and just interesting concepts, and they kind of would take the stories and the personality traits, the brand identity that these fucking IP were built upon, and then they would expand on it. And they would have these cool stories that were broadening the scope of these characters with more out-of-box type thinkers, artists, creators. And that's what was going on in 2000, 2005. It's called NU Marvel. It's an unofficial term, and I'm promoting that because I want to. I mean, fucking like that era. That's what got me back into comics. Shit like that was going on. And it was across the board. It wasn't just with Marvel. A little bit with DC, but there was just a lot of just more creative things that were going on. And so they were trying to even change the look of the covers, and they would have these marketing campaigns where all the covers of certain lines would have a type of look for that month. I forgot what the reason was, but the Tsunami line, Bill Jamaas left. He got outed. And this is my point of my little anecdotes here. So Quesada didn't know what the fuck to do. So he even said, like in interviews on Newsarama with his cup of Joe, he'd be like, well, I was all about just trying to throw something at the wall and see what sticks. To me, as the head of a company, as an EIC, I find that to be very sophomoric for a large company that's up and coming. Marvel was a large brand name, but as far as a company goes, they weren't all that big anymore by the late 90s after they declared bankruptcy in 95. So Bill Jamaas left, and then Quesada was like, so I just started all these things. Like, he would just start a line, the Tsunami line. They were trying to mimic manga. Manga was gaining more popularity by the early 2000s, so he was trying to help Marvel gain back market share, essentially. And it was weak. It was so weak. Does this look like manga to you? You know, there was some stuff that was cool, but as far as the Tsunami line goes, I mean, Runaways was part of the Tsunami line. Does Runaways strike you as manga? You know, I think the Namor comic, that doesn't strike me as manga, or Asian-like. The Snikt was cool, that limited series. But 1 month in all of the Tsunami lines, they had this black background with this design work, and they all had like this purple, like this kind of shiny type purple coloring for these designs that were, like, in my opinion, tattoo worthy is what I would call them. The Mystique one of these is badass, really cool. I think the Mystique one and the Venom one of these black cover series that they did are my favorite ones. So if I ever see a Mystique one with the black and the purple, that one's really fucking cool. I like that one. And, you know, just my opinion. You know, they're not like pinup girl type images, the bad girl, good girl, whatever, that is popular with covers, but I just find this design something different. So, you know, it's not, a lot of these things that Bill Moss was trying to push in Quesada during that era too, is that they weren't showing images on the cover that would necessarily depict what was going on. I mean, yeah, they did in like most of them, yeah, a lot of them, but a lot of times too, like with the Ultimates line, they just wanted to show images that would be like a, what's the word, an expose, like a just something to kind of relay what the character was about, or something to grab your attention. I don't know. So, going off on a nice little story here, but that's who I am. That's what I'm about, and I like to kind of give the background of what was going on when this comic came out, when I'm showing off stuff. So, Venom, number 6. Now, this is from 2003, and that is the month of November. So keep an eye out for those Tsunami comics that are from November 2003. This is written by Daniel Way with Paco Medina doing the interior artwork. As you can see, it's not bad at all. Can't say I'm not privy to this artist's history. I like the artwork here. It's just not my style. Like, I enjoy reading it, but that whole type of look with the facial expressions, it's kind of cartoony. Is somebody gonna tell me it's like manga? Is that it? Pretty cool though. With this little highlights and touch-ups, the coloring. Definitely showing it's way more, feels like it's a little bit more advanced than the stuff from the 80s, but I don't know if that's just because I'm saying that because the paper isn't Newsstand anymore at this point. The paper isn't newsprint anymore at this point. It's not super shiny glossy, but maybe it allows for the new types of highlights, touch-ups to be appreciated versus newsprint. Let me know what you think about that. Venom, issue number 9. Just wanted to note. Okay, so yeah, it's February 2004. This whole Tsunami line of Venom ran for 18 issues. Sam Keith did the covers for the first 9 issues. So this is Sam Keith's last cover of Venom. And Paco Medina started doing the interiors here with issue number 6. 6 through 10, Paco Medina is doing the interiors. I didn't get the last part of this story. They had it. I decided not to get it because I wasn't into the artwork on the cover, and I'm not a huge fan of the series. I just liked this Sam Keith artwork here on this cover. Thought it was cool. Yeah, a couple of cover buys here from the Tsunami line. Really dig this like black and metallic purple looking deals they had here for November 2003. And then I'd like this Wolverine versus Venom cover by Sam Keith for issue number 9. February 2004. Sam Keith's last Venom cover. The Thing, issue 28. This is from October 1985. I find this just to be a real fun buy. It's cool that I got it because it's a newsstand copy and I don't have any spine ticks or spine dimples. It's nice spine, right? And that's really difficult to get as a collector. You know, I know that this isn't super sought after, and even if it was, maybe it would go for $5, right? This isn't really like a financial spec buy. This is just something for fun. I like The Thing. I can't say I'm passionate about collecting The Thing, but I would prefer to read a Thing story for me over, like, I don't know, Rocket Raccoon or a Kitty Pryde story, like some other, like, you know, not A-list, maybe like a B-list type character, right? So The Thing's cool in my opinion. The Thing, issue number 28, this is his first ongoing series, which ran for 36 issues, I believe. John Byrne wrote like the first 22 issues. Mike Carlin took over from issue 23 till when the series ended. Ron Wilson's still doing the art. He did the art up until the last couple issues of this Thing series. So we got a Ron Wilson cover and interiors here, and the deal with Thing issue number 28 out of October 1985 is that it's the first appearance of Ed Garner. He is this shady, slimy businessman who runs the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation. This is the first appearance of the UCWF. Ed Garner, its founder, is actually just a front man for this company, the Power Brokers. And what they do is they'll take volunteers, people who are willing to sign their waivers for their health and non-disclosures, and they'll go through this power-up process. They'll power up individuals. So it's a wrestling federation for superpowered people. And this event that they're trying to start to kick off the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation is the Thing versus D-Man, Demolition Dumphy. So we got the first appearance of the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation. Their slimy business manager, Ed Garner, and it's also the first appearance of D-Man. D-Man was asked to throw the fight, and when the Thing found this out, he was really psyched for the UCWF to go all the way. He wants it to be real. So he told D-Man not to hold back, and he kicked his ass anyway. Steel. Issues 6 and 7. Yet again in Newsstand. That's why I got it. These are written by Louise Simonson, as a matter of fact. Art by Chris Batista. Steel, number 6, July 1994 and August 1994. So we got Steel, John Henry Irons, right? Toe-to-toe with Hardware, Kurt Metcalf. This is part of the DC Milestone crossover that continues from Icon issue number 15. Then we got Steel, issue number 6. Then Blood Syndicate issue 16. Probably, maybe it goes. I'm not sure what the one issue is after that. But then we got Steel, next part of the story, Steel 7. And then the story concludes in Blood Syndicate issue 17. Alpha Flight 11, Alpha Flight 12, Alpha Flight 13. Pretty cool. I find John Byrne stuff from the first half of the 80s to be extremely fun reads. If you are interested in checking out some Copper Age goodness, you know, I know John Byrne is super popular. Roger Stern, that writer, like his stuff that he did on the Avengers. Please check that out if you want an alternative, a new name to check out from the 80s. Copper Age out of Marvel. So Avengers. So Alpha Flight 11, 12, 13. Direct edition. Right? If they were Newsstand, I'd be more like careful with the condition, but these are giveaways. These I'm just going to read and give away. Really nice condition though. I mean, for a black cover, we got a little Brian Bacon crease there, but it's a direct edition. You know, I do collect, because I enjoy the comics, but I do collect with some aspect of trying to figure out how I could get rid of these 10 years later, 5 years later. So it's like, you know, if I could get something in Newsstand, I would hold off. You know, if I was looking for this story as something to collect and hold, to speculate. I get it. You know, these might be worth a half a cent if I'm lucky in 5 years or 10 years. There is a risk. I get it. I've been hoarding. I got a lot of stuff that could end up just being total dead weight. Yeah, you don't have to tell me twice. I've been telling myself twice. But if you want to go for that speculative point of view, you know, you don't care about the condition if it's going to be direct edition. It's more rare, in my opinion, to get something like this if it was in a Newsstand. And people say, don't worry about Newsstand unless it's 1985 or later, because they were 50% by 1985, 86. The ratio of Newsstand to direct, right? Direct is the comics that you would get from the comic book shop, and the comic book shop could not return those. to the publisher. If it was a newsstand, they could return them to the publisher. So there's supposed to be less of those. And also newsstands were not read by collectors. They were just bought in the turn aisle racks by people that just were discarding them really quickly, or they'd throw them right back in real quick, and they didn't care about the condition of whether it was getting bent. And they typically newsstand comics in the 80s, definitely the first half of the 80s, were not bagged and boarded. So to find something that's newsstand in really nice condition is usually rare. Okay, so backstory with this: death of James McDonald Hudson, death of Guardian, the death of the original term. The name for the suit was called Weapon Alpha. Canada's superhero, James McDonald Hudson. So this death of James McDonald Hudson, issues 11 and 12, kind of like a prequel story to how Alpha Flight got formed, really. This is Delphine Courtney, this woman right here. That's not a woman. That's a fembot. Yeah, baby. She's trying to recruit this dude because the Department H got shut down. That's the Canadian government department, Department H. That's their Department of Defense program that was used to create a superhero team, Department H. And one of the first results of Department H, maybe it's H is for Hudson. James McDonald Hudson, before he even married Heather McNeil Hudson, when she was just Heather McNeil, they met while they were working for this guy named Jerry Jackson 10 years prior. And that's what the story is alluding to. You know, here Jerome Jackson is trying to break up the team. He gave James McDonald Hudson, his old-time employee from 10 years earlier, right? James McDonald Hudson quit working for Jerome Jackson to start Department H. The consequences of which led to this really negative series of circumstances that just fucked Jerry Jackson's life up. 10 years prior, Heather McNeil was working for Jerome Jackson at this subsidiary that he was a VP at, a subsidiary of Roxxon Corp. They had this like 15-foot tall robotic suit that was used to explore and excavate natural resources. In order to use the suit, of which his whole job was founded upon, you had to have this control helmet that would pilot this robotic suit that was used for excavation, exploring resources that they could exploit for this energy company, Roxxon. Well, the cybernetic helmet, it's called a psycho-cybernetic helmet, that was used to control this robotic machinery. You plug it in. That was created by James McDonald Hudson. The research of which he founded that psycho-cybernetic helmet upon was his own research that he gained when he was getting his PhDs that allowed him to get the job to work for Jerome Jackson. So since it's based on his knowledge, his research, when James McDonald Hudson got the opportunity to start Department H over at Canada, Canada's Department of Defense, to start a superhero team, he left, and he didn't think it would be responsible to leave the helmet with some business executive, so he took it with him. And he took all his research with him, even though he was able to develop, to actualize his research in reality, to create the fucking psycho-cybernetic helmet with the funding of the subsidiary, right? I mean, typically when you invent something, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. You have to sign some type of agreement that if you invent something while employed for that company, then it's that company's property. That's typically how shit goes. I don't know how stuff is in Canada. But he left to go start Department H, further the Canadians' Department of Defense, so he probably had some protection. This is what geeks say, right? We just make this shit up, right? It's like total geek conversation. You know, really, the reality of it is because John Byrne said so. He wrote the comic book. That's what he wanted, and that's what he did. James McDonald Hudson took the helmet, the psycho-cybernetic helmet, that he created, and he became the Guardian. That's the helmet right there, and he wouldn't be able to even pilot the Guardian suit unless that helmet existed. And Jerome Jackson, though, was married to the boss's daughter. When that helmet disappeared, he could no longer have that suit work, which means no more exploration of resources, which means he loses his job. He has no job references. His wife leaves him because the boss's daughter, right? That's who he married. Can't get work. Decides to off himself. Doesn't work out, and now he's paralyzed. So that was 10 years ago. That was when Alpha Flight started, and that was when she being Heather McNeil, had left with James McDonald Hudson. They were engaged to get married, and then they got this house together. So here she is, moving out, because they don't know that Jerome Jackson's bitter. They don't know that for 10 years he's been planning this revenge story, and now he is splitting up the House of Hudson. The House of Hudson, their literal home here that they got when they started Alpha Flight, or developing Alpha Flight, just the Department H, that started Weapon Alpha Suit. The first appearance of that Weapon Alpha Suit was John Byrne's second issue that he did of the X-Men with Chris Claremont, with that X-Men 109. So that time when X-Men 109 was going on, that was when they just moved into this house pretty much, because she's reminiscing how they had been in this house since they got married, and there's like little expressions here because each room that she's going in, she's having these little flashbacks. And, you know, there's one here of Wolverine. They don't say it's Wolverine, but where is it? Where is it? Logan. She's right here. She's like, Logan, you're not here to fight with Mac again, are you? And he's like, no, I'm here to make peace. They're talking here about cooking. Here's Wolverine now again saying how he's been turned into a killing machine. He goes, I'm virtually invulnerable, Mac. I've been turned into a killing machine. And then here's another flashback she's having, recalling the creation of the Alpha Flight team. People saying, well, even if we don't have the funding anymore, let's still call ourselves Alpha Flight. So this is like foreshadowing, in a sense, because here we have the House of Hudson. It's empty. It's being shut down, right? And in the next issue, James McDonald Hudson is killed. Delphine Courtney, you know, at the time you think she's human because Jerome Jackson's in a wheelchair. He's using her as his liaison, and she's going out. And although there was Alpha Flight was like your first string group of the Department H hero teams that they were developing. So you had Beta Flight, and then you had Gamma Flight. And if you didn't make the cut for Alpha Flight, those were one of the teams that you ended up in. This guy, Box, he's like one of the best mechanical engineers on the planet, and he's got this suit that can either be remote controlled or he can enter inside of it and control it. So he calls the suit Box. I think the guy's last name is B-A-C-H-S, but he calls it B-O-X. So it's like an early appearance of Box. And he's having doubts. He's kind of, he was one of the people that wasn't bitter about the Department H shutdown and these people no longer being part of those teams and getting funded from being part of that Defense Department superhero program. So he seems like the only good-natured one. So she's been collecting all these people that were part of either Beta Flight or Gamma Flight. And I know that they had some type of cameo in the first issue of Alpha Flight. But is this their first actual appearance? Here's Box, the engineer. Diamond Lil. She's indestructible. This was the only other Alpha Flight issue I got. Right? And this woman's programming is to create a team to counter Alpha Flight. And they're ultimately trying to kill James McDonald Hudson. So that's what she's doing. She's got Diamond Lil, who's indestructible, super strong. You got Flashback, this guy here, and Flashback's ability is that he can pull himself from the future as many times as he wants. So if there's infinite moments in the future, he can create an army of himself. Hundreds of himself that you'd have to go up against. Smart Alec, super smart dude, and then you've got Wild Child. I think this is Wild Child's first appearance. I did not like the whole, like, anyone that's like an animal that's feral, we gotta bring them all together to be like, you know, in this Wolverine group, and then all the tech people are together, and all the magic people are together. It's like fucking romper room, kindergarten. Like, we had some great, you know, kind of complicated stories here. You know, not super complex. We're not reading Dostoevsky, but it's not like we're reading some book from, I don't know, man, like just some like Comics Code Authority affected story where they had to have everybody be a story about what if everybody was a child, was a kid version. And then you have everybody being a werewolf version, and then you have everybody being a version of them made of being a toy or something. I don't know. That just seemed like what the Comics Code was, because they got their wings clipped. They were so restricted. They had to have all these hokey stories at the beginning of the Comics Code, right? Very simple stories, predictable. I think that by the early 80s, Marvel Comics had developed into some fun stories because they were including their continuity as well as maintaining points of view that built upon the characters' actions, the characterization of each IP, intellectual property, was being developed in a manner that was consistent throughout time. So for Marvel to suddenly start grouping people together based on certain looks, to me that just screams like, well, we want people to be aware that these types of characters are part of Marvel's brand. They're part of the Marvel company name. They don't really care about the story. They're just trying to make sure that when somebody sees an IP, they associate it with a company. That's it. That's dark. That's the whole Savage Avengers. That's the whole Dark Justice League. The silliness of grouping people together like that, and then people read those stories and they keep track of those stories and they act like the content matters, and oh my god, the Dark Justice League goes magic people together. I can see like a certain set of circumstances that might lead magical people to have to be together for a particular event, but then they go their own way, they do their own thing. To have everybody be together. I mean, sure, they're all together because they're Canadian, but I don't want to get like too technical here, but you know what I'm saying? That's the thing with doing these videos. It's one-sided. There's no conversation. But I hope you are digging on the 411. If y'all are interested in 9/11, not necessarily 9/11 related comics, but like World Trade Center comics, you know, some people are into that. There's a lot of World Trade Center images in issue 11. I think also issue 12. We'll see in a minute. But Jerome Jackson, the guy that is trying to break up the House of Hudson, right, that I was saying, he gave James McDonald Hudson a job in New York City. That's why she's shutting her house down. They're moving to NYC. The tower is right there. Image of Manhattan. So he's going to where Jerome Jackson's office is. He knows something's up. And the team that Delphine Courtney was creating, she was trying to bring together, you know, your disgruntled Department of Defense employees to form Omega Flight. So here's the beginning of the end here for James McDonald Hudson. And now at the end of these first, I think like 12 issues of Alpha Flight, they would have a supplemental story on the back that's added as an origin story. This is the origin of Sasquatch. Langowski's trying to recreate the process that Bruce Banner had gone through to become the Incredible Hulk. They're showing how Langowski went to college, had one class, had a semester with Bruce Banner right here while they're on the university. So they're linking them together like that. But that was it. They just showed them together once, having a semester, just in passing reference, going over the background of Langowski. My point is that they're not going to like put, you know, at least they didn't make like Langowski and She-Hulk and fucking, I don't know, Rick Jones, putting them all in a team together, because they're all Hulk people. They all have to be together so people know that they're all from Marvel. The big two in the 21st century. Yikes. Great artwork though, man. Fucking love John Byrne. You know, he's got the cape here. So Snowbird, her real name is Narya. She's a superhero here, based out of Canada. When she is within the realm of the north part of the North American continent, what we know as Canada today, when she is upon that ground, when she is within that area, that's what her powers are dependent upon. And she mentions here how she has been tasked, she's been put upon this earth to battle the great beasts, if one of them is indeed free. So she is referring to Sasquatch as being one of those great beasts. Or assuming that he might be. And now she's saying how she's going to help him control turning into Sasquatch. And here's an ad saying how the next issue of Alpha Flight, one of them won't survive it. Kind of interesting, though, the killing off of James McDonald Hudson. I thought this was a popular title. I don't know if the title was failing and that's why they did a death. That's usually what would happen, you know, in the past 30 years of comic books. But were they making James McDonald Hudson, were they killing him off because the comic wasn't becoming popular? You know, and also, too, you know, because as the story moves on, you know, as a result of the death of James McDonald Hudson, right? So he dies in issue 12, and then Delphine Courtney gets away, and her programming was to create a team to counter Alpha Flight so that James McDonald Hudson would be killed. Well, here she reappears. James McDonald Hudson comes back in issue 25. You find out that it was bullshit. It's not real. Right? That's not a man, baby. That's a robot. So that's... And they're already kind of hinting how she's going to become Vindicator, right? She's going to be taking over the Weapon Alpha suit, the Guardian suit, and calling herself Vindicator. It's cool the look that they're giving her right here, right? 'Cause she's still part of Alpha Flight. She's not powered up yet. And what happens is that one of the guys that was in Beta Flight, he ends up taking the tech from Delphine Courtney because her reappearance here as James McDonald Hudson, you know, she's got the powers of the Guardian. So after they get rid of her, she reveals that she's back as this. I don't know if I can say the word she, given it's a fucking robot. But my point was that they take the tech from this that's left over and recreate the Guardian suit. And that's how she becomes Vindicator. And today, in my opinion, the only reason they would kill off James McDonald Hudson today, in early 21st century former USA, is so that they could just make Guardian a woman and give it to her. That would be really the only reason. And I don't think that John Byrne was doing any type of pseudo-activism by killing him off and having her end up being Vindicator. I think it was just the way it was. Pretty cool how John Byrne made it Invisible Girl, Invisible Woman. What was that? Fantastic Four 284. In Fantastic Four 232, he also established when he first came on the scene with Fantastic Four how Sue Storm was a lot more powerful than people had assumed. He was building up Sue Storm throughout the 80s. There was a lot of props that John Byrne was given to the ladies. Oh yeah, he also made in Alpha Flight, what was it, 1819? Was when Talisman came on the scene, right? And nobody was trying to say that John Byrne was trying to replace Shaman with Talisman, because he wasn't. He wasn't. It was just something fun, right? Because she was related to two Youngsmen. Alright. Am I the only one here that knows what the hell I'm talking about? Alpha Flight 11. And here's 12. Let's go through this real quick. Love this artwork. So much fucking fun. Look at how hot Delphine Courtney is. That was 1980s aerobics going on. Alright. Yeah, look, so she's tearing off flesh. what she do. Heather McNeil tearing off that flesh. She loves it. A couple of it's almost like Narya was more like, I don't know how to put it, like spiritual magic, more dimension. I don't know how to put it. Like she's like I mean, she is magic, where he manipulates the magic, I guess you could say. He's human and uses magic, where she, I think, is more of magic. I'm just going off right now. Damn. Check out Aurora. He's got to wear this suit so that he can survive the hypersonic speeds she flies at. Right, so although Narya was helping Langowski with, you know, his becoming Sasquatch and controlling it, he was actually hooking up with Aurora. Fucking fantastic artwork, I gotta say. Yeah, here they're showing how Puck is living in this humble studio apartment, monk-like lifestyle. Just kind of introducing other characters. Marina, who's actually from another planet. She's engaged with Namor here. Just fantastic artwork, isn't it? Just fun. F-U-N. All caps, baby. So they're gathering each other together because I think Alpha Flight got disbanded. And they're all coming together now. You know, they're kind of displaying what people can do as they're introducing them. You know, because they're fighting each other. They're pissed off at each other. They got their grudges. And they caught up with James McDonald Hudson now in New York City. He's in one of the World Trade Center towers. He got ambushed, right, as I showed. Wild child. God, these are such great comics, man. Yeah, he's remote controlling. Jerome Jackson, it turns out this time, is remote controlling. The box is what he's remote controlling. And here's Box. He's damaging the Guardian suit. So even though Guardian provided some electric feedback, shorted out the Box suit, Jerome Jackson's now unconscious. Did he die here? He might have actually died. I do not recall. But, so here we are counting down. You know, he has a few seconds to this one battery explodes. He don't make it. So he actually dies. James McDonald Hudson. I don't think they ever brought him back. I think he's like one of the few characters that was dead for good. But I'm not sure. So there's number 12. Issue 13. This is Wolverine appears in a dream. This is the funeral that she's thinking about. No words. Very cool. Wolverine, Logan appearing at James McDonald Hudson's funeral. And then she wakes up from her nightmare. And they're mentioning something about the Canadian politics because she's trying to meet up with this guy about starting Alpha Flight. I think he's telling her how Alpha Flight is done. He doesn't even know that James McDonald Hudson is dead. So he's like, dead? He's like, my position here has been rather nebulous since he's referencing Department H being shut down here. This is in the office of the Prime Minister, Parliament Hill, in Ontario, Canada. Ontario, Canada. Wow. Freezing bank accounts of people that give money to truckers who are upset about pandemic restrictions. Yeah. So fucked up. Yeah. Oh, could you imagine, considering the politics in Canada today? I don't think I could read an Alpha Flight comic book. What would they stand for? And she's like, we're just going to do Alpha Flight on our own. We're going to do it independently. So, without it being under the Canadian government's umbrella. So, probably a good thing. Check out these 3 issues when you get a chance. The Death of James McDonald Hudson. Background on who Alpha Flight is. And then Delphine Courtney's programming was still in effect after the story arc ended. And like 10 issues later, like a year later. Oh yeah, we also have the first appearance of these guys here. These guys are all being remote controlled. These robots. It's like they're showing how these robots can be remote controlled and perform in battle, and then it ends with this robot here. Some more info on robots. This is called Macro System. It's actually a group of robots. They show off these personalities, but it's actually one person that's remote controlling them. We got a bondage image here of Aurora. Bondage going on. And we also get, to see how the teams work together, how their powers work. A little introduction to the members of Alpha Flight. Well, they fight this new robot that they can all combine together. It's called Macro System. And it's piloted by this guy here, Captain Mansfield. So it's kind of, they never reuse these robots, Macro System. Would have thought, like, it's like a fucking Transformer in a way, or like a Voltron deal. But they combine together. So it's revealed in this issue, because James McDonald Hudson returned in issue 25, but it turns out it was just bullshit. And Delphine Courtney was still fulfilling her programming, trying to create a team, and she brought back Diamond Lil with Wild Child, and they're over at the largest mall in the world, I think it was at the time. It's like Super Mall in Alberta. Or no, yeah, in Edmonton. North America's largest shopping mall. And that's where they got the environment set up here to fight. And then they reveal that James McDonald Hudson is still dead. Just the artwork, just the flow of everything, building upon continuity, no trust fund, pseudo-activism. Just fucking fun comics, man. X-Men and the Micronauts, #1, direct edition, January 1984. Chris Claremont and Bill Mantlo did this story. It's a 4-issue limited series. I got this just because it was such a nice spine, flawless, newsstand, nice bright colors. Just want to show you some of this artwork. Butch Geis, Bob Whitesek doing the inks. Talk about fun. It's January 1984. Skip ahead a little bit. Got, oh, sweet, New Mutants appearance. right? Christar, He-Man, Power Lords, all yours, thanks to the 1981 Telecommunications and Deregulation Act, which removed the law that was in effect since, I think, 1970, 1971, since the Hot Wheels cartoon was deemed an advertisement. Cartoons were called advertisements for kids, so they were outlawed until the Telecommunications and Deregulation Act. I think it was 1981, right? Mark Fowler, head of the Federal Communications Commission under Ronald Reagan, they removed those regulations. And then you got He-Man toys, you got cartoons galore popping up, Transformers, G.I. Joe, right? Christar toys. Toys and cartoons and comics. We got little Butch Guice, X-Men and the Micronauts. Y'all like, damn, this guy talks a lot. Yup. No doubt. Let's just check this out real quick. What do we got here? X-Men 283, December 1991. Wills Protasio did the cover and the interiors for this second appearance of Bishop. Wills Protasio did the plot. John Byrne script, as a matter of fact. This X-Men ash can, 75 cents out of 1994. We got some stories on it from John Byrne, Jim Lee, and Andy Kubert doing the writing. This is the same story that was printed in the Pizza Hut Super Savings book with an additional 2 pages that concluded the story. It's reprinting the wraparound cover. Got a little promo here from Bob Harris, X-Men editor. Okay, so this is reprinting this Pizza Hut Super Savings book, but where did this then come from? I don't know, X-Men Ashcan edition. I don't know if they mailed away to get this, or if this was some supplement added to something. I don't recall, but... Alright, so this is the wraparound cover to X-Men 30. The rest of these, holla, for $1. For $1. Marvel Legends, Toy Biz, X-Men 10 reprint. This came with the Toy Biz long shot action figure out of 2006. The comic is written by Chris Claremont with the cover and interior by Jim Lee. 2006. New X-Men 114. Got all these for $1. Check that out. I love this. I love New Marvel era, 99 to 2005. The end of it, that era, right? It's kind of touch and go here and there, but man, it's some great fucking stories. So I found a bunch of new X-Men comics that were for $1. New X-Men 114. This is where Grant Morrison kicks off his run. It's one of the comics that brought me back into spending money on comics again for a brief period of time. After I stopped in '89, saw this on the stands. This and like Alias, and then the Bendis, Alex Maleev, Daredevil. Just as far as Marvel goes, this is some of the titles that brought me back. And then just like the Richard Corbin, Incredible Hulk that he did. You also had Peter Bagg did a one-shot story, the Megalomaniacal Spider-Man. So there's just a lot of cool stuff that was going on. A lot of out-of-box thinkers being allowed to play with these Marvel characters. So Grant Morrison started on writing X-Men as of issue 114. They took that X-Men title that was started by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee, and as of issue 114, they changed it to New X-Men. So there is no like issue 1 for this. This is the first issue of New X-Men as of issue 114. Frank Quietly did most of the art on this Grant Morrison New X-Men run, although there were a lot of filler artists, and at the time it felt like I was being messed with. A lot of bait and switch, and I heard Joe Quesada joke about bait and switching readers, which I thought it was kind of weird for him to joke about that, because he's like, yeah, you know, we hook in old-time readers, we bring them back with these new concepts and new stories, and we give them what they've been wanting. Because it is what I wanted. Instead of Marvel going the spec bubble route, I wish they would have gone this route by 1990, but had to wait 10 years. This came out like 2001, July and August 2001. This is the B cover by Barry Windsor Smith. I think you could only get this one in direct edition for this particular cover. The regular cover is a Frank Quietly image of Wolverine popping his middle claw, kind of breaking the fourth wall. First appearance of Cassandra Nova is right here. The Wild Sentinel. First appearance of Ugly John, and Donald Trask was this business person that Cassandra Nova was trying to collaborate with at the beginning of this to develop her crazy sentinels that she sent to attack and commit genocide on the island of Genosha. Thank God, because mutants were supposed to be rare. They were. That's why it made sense that the giant-size X-Men were from different countries. I mean, they were trying to gain interest of foreign readers. One of the reasons why they had all those members of giant-size X-Men from different countries, but mutants were supposed to be super, super, super rare. Not even 1 in 100. But by the time this comic book came out, there were so many mutants. You know, you had that comic book District X, which was a cool comic book. I'm glad it came out around this time, but it was one of the cool aspects of New Marvel, I gotta say. Bishop played like a cop patrolling this mutant neighborhood in New York City. But then there should be only one mutant neighborhood. Like on North America. There should be that rare. Maybe like a small town in Mexico or something like that, have another mutant village. But as far as mutants in general, they were supposed to be rare, and that was one cool thing about Joe Quesada I liked, is he said that there was a bunch of things that he called putting the genie back in the bottle. And one of those was trying to make mutants be rare again, and then another one was getting rid of Peter Parker and Mary Jane being married, which I wasn't crazy about the One More Day story and how it ended up. It was just so fucking convoluted. God. But I'm glad that they put that genie back in the bottle. I'm glad that they tried to make mutants more rare. Didn't really seem that successful, but how it turned out. But while that process was going, while it was all going down, you didn't know how it was going to end up, obviously. And there was a lot of stuff that people kept saying over and over again, we haven't seen this before. This is what we've been for, like with the Ultimates. You know, that modernization of the Avengers. There was a lot of stuff that was going on that today we take advantage of, for better or for worse. But there was a lot of stuff that was going on between 2000 and 2005 that people just, I don't think most collectors are aware of because of all the variant covers and the movie and TV show hype. It has a lot of significant value as far as just, in my opinion, the development of the characters at Marvel that go in the direction of trying to expand how stories are being told through characterization. And just trying to put genies back in the bottle and just modernizing their IP. A lot of overdue stuff that was going on. New X-Men 115, August 2001. First appearance of Negasonic Teenage Warhead. The interiors are by Frank Quietly. Covers, Frank Quietly, obviously Barry Windsor Smith for this one off here. Really hot image of the anti-hero of the team. I think Wolverine got replaced by Emma Frost as far as the anti-hero on the New X-Men as of this issue here, 116. This is September 2001. I love that cover. It's sexy, but at the same time, you're just kind of like, okay. He's got, I dig this cover. I just thought it was so fucking cool at the time. Just the whole, I just thought this was a really cool cover. Very out of box. And as you can see, you got that Bill Jamas influence, right? Because the covers are trying to depict the characters. They're trying to show who they are, not necessarily what is going on inside the book. So as far as for a buck, I got issues 114 through issues 119. So here's issue 116, issue 117. I got the fallout now from the attack on Genosha. So interestingly enough, right, what is this? This is issue 16. So this is September 2001 cover date. September 2001 cover date. Look at that artwork. This is post Genosha. This is what I'm trying to show you though. Hold on. 116. And New X-Men 114. Cover date July 2001. Okay, so here she is. Donald Trask. Okay. These new types of sentinels she's going to use to destroy Genosha. Here we go. 115, August 2001. 9/11. So we do not have the 9/11 symbol on here, right, which will appear eventually. So it looks like issue 119 is when they start with the 9/11 in memoriam icons there on the covers. But for issue 115 out of August 2001, this is cover date August 2001, and this came out before September 2001. And I don't know, what's the word? Dare I say controversial? I don't know if I'd say it's controversial, but here's the attack on Genosha. And here's Magneto. And then here we've got this like plane, like a fist coming out of it, going right into the building. Hadn't seen anything like that before this in comics. Negasonic Teenage Warhead. That cool image. Logan messing with Cassandra Nova. Magneto. So that's in issue 115, and then 117 is the first appearance of Beak and Glob Herman, Cephaloid, Paco, Crater, Forearm, and also the first appearance of Mammoth of the Imperial Guard, Lilandra's Share Imperial Guard. This issue 119, I don't think it has any first appearances. It's out of December 2001. Really nice Frank Quitely cover. Angel. Igor Corday is doing the interiors for issues 119, which are completely fine. Let me just show you. At the time, I was really into Frank Quitely. I still am, and I was not happy about them changing it up after getting me back to spending money on comics. And I really like the look of Frank Quitely's artwork. I gotta say, Igor Corday is not doing a bad job. It's alright. This is still great artwork. There's Angel. Expels some of that acid onto Wolverine. I don't know, Wolverine was still kind of cool. Although he was becoming less and less an anti-hero in the 21st century, I would say. He was already oversaturated, you know, by the late 80s. That was the thing about the Copper Age. By the late 80s, those last 3 years, if a comic book was failing, you knew a comic book was failing because they put Wolverine on the title. All right. Nice. Not bad. Although, you know, when they also put in Ethan Van Sciver, wasn't bad either. This is the first appearance of Angel Salvador and Cerebella. First appearance of Stepford Cuckoos as well. Mindy, Phoebe, Sophie, Esma, and Celeste. You have these U-Men. This organization called the U-Men. They were trying to harvest organs of mutants. Ethan Van Sciver was great in this comic. I just wish that they had introduced it with him then, and then kept him all the way through. The whole bait and switch, changing up the artists, I'm not a fan of that. No problem with his illustrating here. It's totally fine. X-Force, Sex, and Violence. This is for 3 issues. The B cover to this is so fucking hot. Check that out. It's also by Gabriel Dell'Otto. Gabriel Dell'Otto, the reason I got this is because he does the covers and the interiors. I mean, look at how nice that spine is, too. Shit. See, when you get those comic book covers that are really dark and blacks or type of dark colors, you know, those spine ticks, they stand out. So let's see if I can open this without ruining it. Imagine getting a newsstand of this, though. X-Force Sex and Violence #1, September 2012. Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost wrote the story. Yeah, I was already out of comics. I was reading, what, 99, 2000 until around 2005, and then came back 2016, but not so much as a Marvel reader. As I came back more as like a back issue collector. Yeah, Gabriel Dell'Otto, his Secret War limited series that Brian Michael Bendis wrote, I mean, the story itself was extremely decompressed. I kept thinking that the story was going to become something, it didn't really feel like it had much substance. But those Gabriel Dell'Otto artwork, that's what took my dollars. See a lot of violence, didn't see much sex though. That's the B cover, is an image like that right there. Pretty cool. Uncanny X-Force for $1. Decided why not, right? Beautiful Asad Ribic covers. This ran for 30 issues, Uncanny X-Force. It's written by Rick Remender, these 3 issues here. And it's Jerome Opeña. He did the penciling and the inks for the interiors. It's December 2010, right here for the first issue, and then January, February 2011. Really nice Asad Ribic covers. Can't say I have read these stories. Just got it because I like the Asad Ribic artwork. Cool. If you get a chance, there's a motion comic of that Loki limited series that Asad Ribic did the artwork for. When you asked the Croatian frog what its favorite artist was, what did it say? Ribic, Ribic. Oh yeah! Fell #1, September 2005. It ran for 9 issues. It started by Warren Ellis. That's why this comic exists. Warren Ellis was like, what the fuck? He got together with Ben Templesmith. They were upset that the price of comics was going over $2, so they collaborated to promote affordable comic books. That's why Fell exists. They're trying to keep comics affordable. So they got this like noir stories, this guy in this town. This dark, dismal looking place. Deal with all these crimes going down. I've read the first issue. I haven't read beyond that. It came out right when I was leaving again. So this is September 2005 cover date. So when I saw this in the back issue bin, I just thought, you know, why not? As I find more Fell issues in the back issue bin, I will start to read the entire 9-issue series of Fell. I have a feeling I'm going to be finding more of these in the dollar bin. It's not bad. Got great reviews. Very acclaimed, critically acclaimed noirish detective type series. Crime stories. Copra. Issue 1 and 2. As far as the reprinting of Cobra comics from Image, it ran for a total of 6 issues. Issue number 1 is from 2019, October, cover date. These are all written and drawn by Michael Fife. Is it Michael Fife? I think he's from the United States. Originally, he had self-published these comic books, Copra, from 2012 until 2017. They ran for a total of 31 issues. Copra is a take off of the superheroes that Michel Fifo was into, like his version of Suicide Squad, and then I think the last issue of Copra, that 31st issue, has like his version of the Punisher on the cover. So he takes some familiar, popular superheroes and he kind of does his version of them in Copra. I've only read these first 2 issues, so I can't say I'm entirely familiar with Copra. It's very critically acclaimed because of the success that he garnered from self-publishing a comic book that he wrote and drew, all from the ground up by himself. Michel Fifa, Copra, out of 2019, these reprints. Bay City Jive finally found the 3rd issue of this 3-issue limited series. This is what, September 2001. John Layman story, Jason Johnson art. Some fun. Nothing serious here. Wildstorm Comics. Never heard of this. When I found the first 2 issues in back issue bins recently, I knew eventually I'd find that 3rd issue. So, she's like, virgin sacrifice? Who are you kidding? He's like, I don't have to tell them. Yeah. Yeah, because it's like some magic that was going on, and did anything ever come out of this series? Does anybody know? Bay City Jive, did they ever expand upon any of these characters in any other comic from Wildstorm or? But you know, when I read this, it was like this wizard. It's like all of a sudden these consequences were going on and these bad things were happening, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, this friend of theirs that knows magic comes in and saves the day. And it was just sort of like, there wasn't really, it didn't seem like there was much of a lead up to that. But then some crazy stuff happened, and then he comes in, saves the day, and then they're done. I think it's more just about the humor, the humorous dialogue. Nexus number 9 out of April 1985. This ran for a total of 80 issues until 1991, and then the artist Steve Rude returned for 3 more issues that occurred between 2009 and 2011. I just got this because I just thought it was a cool looking cover. I looked inside, and the Steve Rude artwork is so right. Mike Barron wrote this story. Steve Rude, in interviews, he says that he's a self-taught artist. So this is a Copper Age comic book, science fiction, alternative press, First Comics. So let me know your feedback. Like, there's indie press, right? Like, indie, isn't indie more like, I mean, it's independent. Isn't indie supposed to be more like DIY? So wouldn't you consider First more an alternative press? I don't know. Because, like is First a subsidiary of some other company? That wouldn't really be indie then, right? I don't know. What's the difference? I mean, what? So indie, it's an alternative to the big two. So that would be considered a type of alternative press. But would First be more, alternative press, but then the original issues of Copra, because they were self-published, that's indie, right? Indie means self-publish. If it isn't self-published, if it's like a company, but it's not the big two, then that's more alternative press. Does that make sense? This kind of examples I'm going off here? All right. Has anybody read Nexus? I'm seeing these in the dollar bins. I'm going to read this, let you guys know what I thought of it, and then... Yeah, so there's an ad here for Shatter, and this says on sale February 28th, 1985, but this is June 1985. The fuck? So the one-shot Shatter did come out in February 28th, 1985. And then that story continued as a supplemental story in the back of John Sable, right? That was printed by First for like 6 issues. And then that story, that was a like 8-page story, an extra story on the back of First John Sable comic book. And then they started the ongoing Shatter comic book after those supplemental stories ended at the end of 1985. And Shatter, the ongoing, then started. I think that lasted for 14 issues? Not sure. So that's the ad for Shatter for February, but this came out in June. I don't know. But June cover date at least. So let me know what you think of this comic. If anybody has any feedback on whether you think I should start trying to find some Nexus issues to read. Whatever. Giant size Tesla. I like the idea of historical figures being in a comic book. This is Tesla. This is, I think that's Einstein. And her, I'm not sure. Maybe that's, what's her name? Mary Sophie Germain. I had to look it up. But she was late 18th century. She lived until 1831. A mathematician who contributed to the study of acoustics, elasticity, and the theory of numbers. So maybe that's who she is. But like Alternate Comics had that limited series, that short story Feast or Famine, that had Tesla and Einstein team up. And I just think that Tesla, he's waiting for that right creator, artist, writer combo that's going to bring this guy to an ongoing comic book series. I've seen this guy being used in comics here and there, and stories here and there. There's some mystique with Tesla. There's an allure to see him in a comic. It's cool to see this genius being used in science fiction stories. So that's one of the reasons why I got this. I see Tesla in a comic, I'll probably pick it up. So I'm that type of creator in that aspect as well. But I do love historical fiction. If you ever get a chance, check out Eric Schanauer. That's such a great comic book about the Trojan War. Just one, just to tell you one right there for historical fiction. Check that out, all right? War Party, that's a comic book that's new, and that takes place during the French-Indian War, late 18th century. War Party, a comic book about lycanthropy. So historical fiction, comics that take people from history, put them in stories, stuff like that, I dig. So, Quantum Leap, #1. This ran for 13 issues. This is out of September 1991. George Broderick wrote this story with Mark Jones doing the interior artwork, but that cover is a painting by C. Winston Taylor. It's of Scott Bakula, right here, and Dean Stockwell. The NBC TV show Quantum Leap, it ran from 1989 to 1993, about how Dr. Sam Beckett, he was desperate for funding for his Quantum Leap project, so he tested his accelerator chamber on himself. Thus, the show Quantum Leap. The accelerator chamber allows someone to have their consciousness travel in time within the span of their own lifetime. And Al, the project observer, appears as a hologram while Sam Beckett is inhabiting people's bodies. Sam can only see Al as a hologram. Yo, Comet TV on cable, they're still reprinting Quantum Leap episodes. I record them. Superman 75, Newsstand, Death of Superman, January 1983. Dan Jurgens is doing the art here. As you can see, he wrote this story. He did the layouts for the interiors. Brett Breeding did the finishes. Death of Superman. Louise Simonson wrote the first appearance of Doomsday. That was in Man of Steel, issue 18, December 1992. So a month later, in January 1993, we have this Dan Jurgens comic. Superman 75, Death of Superman. Beginning of the End. Shit, this isn't the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end was, I mean, we're going from John Byrne's Man of Steel. Such a fucking success. Holy shit. When John Byrne's Man of Steel came out, talk about putting genies back in the bottle in a successful way, right? Because John Byrne was like, okay, you know, Superman, he can like move the moon. You know, like how do you push the moon and you just move it, you know? Like John Byrne's like, okay, Superman, he has to hold his breath when he goes out into space. He's vulnerable to magic. He explained how he has like this aura around his body so that loose-fitting clothing might be damaged, you know, if he's going through lava or something like that, whatever. But he was giving some explanations to Superman's history that were building upon the mythos in a practical, long-term thinking kind of way. In my opinion, let me know your feedback on my take of Man of Steel by John Byrne, because I loved it. Thought it was great. He was bringing Superman into modern age, and now here we are, about 10 years later. You know, when Superman, Man of Steel came out by John Byrne, they didn't say first appearance of the new version of Superman, and then you know, in the second issue or third issue when they showed Magpie, they weren't like, this is the first appearance of Magpie, or this is the second appearance of Magpie, or this is the first appearance of the new Lex Luthor, and then this is the first appearance of the new version of Batman, the first blah, blah, blah. I know it sounds weird, like I'm ranting, I'm going off, but that's what it is. It's a fucking rant. That's how the past 20 years now of comics have been. 15 years, good 15 years, with the whole variant covers, speculation bubble, being nursed. Yo, that's how it's been. The whole spec bubble being nursed from the late 80s, first appearance, and all that. Man of Steel by John Byrne was like a last gasp of comic books, of enjoying comics. And now there's trends, there's FOMO, there's gimmicks, there's first appearances, there's variants, there's ratios, there's nursing anything but building upon the history of these characters while trying to publish comics in other mediums, forms, so that they can be bought and scene and fucking other venues, other areas, other places besides a comic book shop and a turn aisle rack at a drugstore. That's what they need to do. And they didn't. They nursed shit to the point that their bullshit turned into this. And then, like, seeing an interview with Louise Simonson and her tearing up about the death of Superman, it's like, it makes her seem out of touch, in my opinion. If anything, she should be crying about how everything turned out and the fact that they had to end up killing Superman. Let's just leave this at this on Max Landis's video. He's got a 15-minute video linked down below in the details, right? Max Landis, The Death and Return of Superman. Check out that 15-minute video. He filmed that thing, he said, in like 3 days. Superman. The Death of Comics. Superman number 75. There's a couple of religious symbols that I found in the dollar bin I thought were interesting. King David, issue number 1. It's got the Jewish star going on. That really stood out considering recent events. Danny Bellondi is doing the artwork. 2015 publishing date. Yeah, period pieces. Nice. Spirit of the Tao. You know who wants this book. Huh? XXXIX, what it is, man. Check this shit out. Image Comics. June 1998. Billy Tan cover. D-Tron. Doing the inks. So, Spirit of the Tao. This is written and drawn by Billy Tan and D-Tron. When there was a separation, there was coming together. When there is coming together, there is dissolution. All things may become one, whatever their state of being. Only ye who has transcended see this oneness. Shuang Tzu, 3rd century BC. He who buy a pretty comic is he who have a bag and a board and a pretty comic. Spirit of the Tao. That is one sexy book, is it not? Speaking of that, found another copy of Cat's Eye number 1 in the dollar bin. What's the big deal with that? Just another sexy cover. Right? Side number 1. Altstädter. Karl Altstädter. Does these comics here. Hyperworks. Say an Angel. And on that note, I float. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you had a nice time chilling, absorbing that 411. Have a dope-ass time celebrating Halloween. Have a great and not safe Devil's Night. Thanks for watching. Much love. Peace.